All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee, a rainy Labor Day here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I am joined by my good friend out there in Los Angeles, California, of 49ers Hub. It is Evan Sowards, the overserved man of the weekend himself. Evan, good evening, sir. How are you?
I am exhausted. Labor Day has been fun. Summer's officially over, and I am ready to reset and cleanse my body.
I feel that. It is. It's weird. When we get older, especially in this particular industry, you don't even realize that what holidays are. So I'm sending out emails, working on stuff, and then someone reminds me, it's Labor Day. It's like, oh, that makes sense with certain things about. Okay, it's a holiday today. Did not realize today was actually a holiday, and people had off work and were just having fun at pools and stuff like that on Labor Day.
Yeah, it is. It's gonna be. I'm very excited to have the break.
There you go. Also joining us in a little bit when he jumps on, Nick McGee should be here in a little bit. Great NFL writer, but look out for him on the pod as we continue on here. We are a mere couple days away. This is going up Tuesday morning for folks in their morning commute, Evan, and we are right there. The NFL season, Thursday night football, Rams, Bills. Very excited. Josh Allen versus Matthew Stafford on Thursday night as the Rams get their rings and trophy presentation and all that good stuff. Very, very excited to see that one on Thursday night. We get week one, an amazing college football weekend. I'm sorry about your Ducks. That was rough. I don't know if you caught any of that game on Saturday. You avoided it.
I was drinking my way through that game. I wasn't watching. I had friends in town visiting. And we were all Duck fans too. So I think we saw the first score. And once we started to realize how bad it was getting, we were just like, okay. I mean, at least that there's no surprises that you'll have to wait for at the end of the year. You know that they can't again stack up against these big Southern football teams.
It is a thing. Before we move into our kind of picks and predictions around the NFL for this season, we're going to do our first Screw the Lines NFL regular season picks coming up as we do at this time every year, which I'm very excited about to revisit this because we actually have games to talk about. I want to kind of do a broad strokes of our picks of who our final Super Bowl predictions are, first coach fired, who we think that will be, the AFC and NFC MVP. And then something I think is pretty interesting because it happens to everybody and we just we don't talk about it. It's just that who has the season from hell in the AFC? Who has the season from hell in the NFC where everything made sense on paper and it just doesn't go that way for a variety of reasons. So we'll get into all that and our picks in just one second. But Evan, first things first, your 49ers, they cut Trey Sermon. That is something we talked about in the pod that was a possibility. Man, so after the 53-man roster, was that the biggest surprise for you?
We had talked about that a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. I remember I told you, I was like, there's some people that think he might get cut. And, it sucks as a 49ers fan after, drafting Joe Williams, which no one who is not a 49ers fan knows who Joe Williams is because it was one of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's first draft picks. He was a third-round running back, and he never played. He was terrible from the start. He got cut. He didn't even land on a practice squad afterwards. He never should have gone to the NFL. And then so they draft another running back again. This time, bigger pedigree. Ohio State should be a whole thing, and we were really expecting a lot out of it. But for the most part, I think it's a good thing in that Jordan Mason, who was an undrafted free agent, is someone that they really liked and they thought was looking really good in camp. And they said, it was more about him than anything. We would have loved to have Trey on the practice squad, but he obviously made it to the Eagles. So, we've had Dante Pettis leave and want to see kind of what happens with him in Chicago. We'll see week one. Cap never really got his chance after leaving. Alex Smith got the Chiefs. I'm excited to see what happens with Trey Sermon. Hope, he's on a good team. The Eagles have a really good roster. I'll be very curious to know, was it just, not a good fit with Kyle? Maybe they didn't get along. Was it a talent thing? Is he just not a good NFL running back? But I do think him going to the Eagles means we'll probably be able to answer those questions by the end of the season.
Well, he's also going to a roster where Miles Sanders can never stay healthy, and then you got Kenneth Gainwell. He's going to get an opportunity in Philadelphia, but we'll see. Very interesting nonetheless, and it's the least of the San Francisco 49ers concerns is who's at running back. Just stop taking them early. That's all you got to do if you're Kyle Shanahan. Just stop taking them early.
Especially with Elijah Mitchell and Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert and now Jordan Mason. Like, it's a waste of a pick.
Yeah. Nick McGee is here joining us. Nick, welcome to the program, sir. You made it.
Made it. A few technical difficulties, but we're here now. All well and good.
How are you doing, buddy?
It's all good, man. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Nick, give us the most interesting thing about leads that most people do not know, because my expertise on leads is 1,000% based on the show, The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret.
The most interesting thing about that is, can I just go really, really basic and say that it's a really, really good place to go have a beer? That's like,
okay,
maybe not to the American audience, but like it is a very, very good night out. There's a lot of bars. The bar scene isn't excellent for a city in the north of England where it's cold all the time. The bar scene is very, very good.
There you go. We were talking about the 53-man roster. Trey Sermon getting cut by the San Francisco 49ers, a team that you are also quite familiar with, Nick. Were there any other major surprises for you on the final 53 for San Francisco?
Not particularly. I mean, I tend to get quite granular, so I'm talking about back offensive lineman making, which might not be most interesting to most people in the audience, but it was a pretty standard. I don't think anything really stood out to me, to be honest. The Sermon was the initial surprise was that they was going to stick with 5 running backs. It looked like they were going to go with all 5, which I thought might be extra insurance against how often they tend to get injuries there. Like the Niners will cycle through running backs. There might be a point this season where all 4 of them are injured. It wasn't the biggest surprise that Mason made it over him. He's quite he's what Shanahan looks for in a running back. He's very decisive, good burst. Maybe the biggest surprise stick on the offense is once they made the corresponding moves, keeping Tyler Kroft. Actually having a definitive second receiving tight end with George Kittle is not something they've had for a while. They've had Ross Dwelly, who can only make plays in spurts, Charlie Warner as a blocking tight end. So having Tyler Kroft, who when he's healthy, I mean, that's been the big knock on him that he can't stay healthy, but when he is healthy, he can be that second tight end threat, that complement to George Kittle. Allow them to still have a receiving threat out of 22 personnel. When they run 2 back, 2 tight ends, you can have Kittle staying to block. And I know Evan doesn't always like Kittle staying into block, even though he's really good at it.
I like it. I just would like to see him score some touchdowns.
See it less often, yeah. So but still, when Kittle does do that, you can still run a tight end out there. Tyler Kroft made some decent gains in preseason. He's quite smooth in the open field as a route runner. So that was one that stood out to me. That I was quite happy with. It was a pleasant surprise.
I like it. Falcons, the biggest one on our end was Jared Bernhardt, who was a lacrosse player not too long ago and a 1-year quarterback at Ferris State. He, if you had told me before the season that this man would not only make this roster, but he might have a potential path to getting playing time outside of special teams on this roster, when you bring in Auden Tate and the kind of guys that Arthur Smith wanted, he was like, I only want bigs. I want 6'10" and up. I only want long receivers. Brian Edwards, Auden Tate, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, long. And then he goes and he cuts Auden Tate, and Olumide Zaccheaus is just apparently behind the scenes guys really like Olumide, so just having him in the locker room's good. But Demario Byrd, Kaderil Hodge, and Jared Bernhardt being the other receivers outside of Drake London and Brian Edwards is wild to me. And I would not have thought in a million years that was going to be the wide receiver rotation in Atlanta this fall. But that being the case, and then Audrey Allison, who I think flashed a little bit this preseason, getting cut, and Huntley getting cut, and going with hey, Tyler Algier, we drafted him. Damian Williams, we'll see, but we drafted a running back for a reason, so we can't just keep all these guys in this locker room. So I don't know. I'm very fascinated to see how the offense and how the rotations work, because there are some major question marks that Arthur Smith's taking some chances on here.
I mean, the one thing we haven't really talked about that I just and it's weird because I'm a Duck fan, but like how do you feel about Marcus Mariota? I mean, he kind of looked good in preseason.
Ridder looked better, but I will say, like, Mariota looks fine. Mariota will be fine. It's just Mariota was not playing 17 games. Like, that's the whole thing, is like, I don't see Mariota making it that long. And like, he was missing Kyle Pitts behind him a little bit. He had some ducks, pardon the lack of a better word there, but he had some duck balls, and Ridder throws a better ball, and eventually Ridder also just moves the pocket a little bit better. Mariota's still taking some shots, and I just don't see, with our offensive line and the way it's currently constructed, and Caleb McGarry looked better at that right tackle spot this preseason, which is great. But I mean, still wouldn't be surprised if Jermaine Ifedi found his way on to the right tackle spot at some point. Maybe they rotate. Jalen Mayfield is still very much in this conversation. We'll see what Matt Hennessy looks like at the center spot, but the Falcons' offensive line is going to be one of the worst in football, and I don't think that's conducive to a 17-game above average season for Marcus Mariota. I don't know. What do you think, Nick?
Well, there's no way he can have a worse time playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium than he had on Saturday watching Oregon. He was looking pretty depressed by the end of that game, which I don't really blame him. I was pretty depressed by the end of that game, hoping it'd be a good one.
We're getting all the bad juju out early.
But I will say Mariota is like the nicest human being. Like every video I watch with Mariota, you're just like, I want this guy in my locker room forever. He's like the Alex Smith of the modern quarterback, where you just want him in your locker room. You don't want him as your starting quarterback, but you're like, I need this guy in my quarterback room for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the reason why they brought him in. He's a nice guy. He can be that bridge guy. He might get a chance to rehabilitate his career. I think they both looked okay in preseason. Mariota and Ridder, they did a lot of the same stuff. They got him out on the move. They can both run. They did a lot of the pistol stuff like that. So it's stuff that's going to maybe try and like mitigate the impact of that really bad offensive line. And yeah, he's got some weapons, man. Big people, little people, as the NFL saying. You've got Kyle Pitts and Drake London with massive catch radiuses. You're going to move the ball from time to time. So I think it could look better than what many people expect of the Falcons this year. There is some reason for optimism, I think.
We'll see. The NFC South is just a gigantic wild card. We got Tom and Giselle staying at different houses. We've got Sean Payton being out the door. We got Baker Mayfield in Carolina. I just have no idea.
I know we're in a little bit of a we got to go fast tonight. So but I do want to ask what your thoughts are on Peter King saying that he has the Saints as who he thinks will basically win the NFC with 12 wins.
I appreciate when sports writers actually go out on a limb and go and not just go, I think it's going to be the Bills and Chiefs in the AFC title game. And then I think it's going to be the Packers versus Packers versus Bucs in the NFC title game. And then I got Packers Bills or something. It's like, that's boring. Like that's boring. Go outside the box a little bit. No one had the Bengals going to the Super Bowl this past year. Pick somebody outside the box. And like the Saints, all things considered, I mean, I don't think it's crazy. Kamara not getting suspended and missing the first 6-7 games or whatever it was looking like for him this year. That's huge for them. A healthy Michael Thomas. We've seen this team go to the NFC title games several times in the last couple of years. That would not jump out at me. It's like the Saints could go 12-5, and that wouldn't surprise me. The Saints could go 7-10, and that wouldn't surprise me either. What about you, Nick?
There's a lot of things that have to go right. Like, first off, it has to go badly in Tampa Bay for them to win that division, I think. Like, if the Bucs offensive line collapses and Brady can't deal, he's getting a lot of interior pressure, which every quarterback hates, even him, then there is the potential for it to go sideways there and for the Saints to take advantage. It's just you're asking a lot. You're asking Jameis Winston to be what he was for a couple of games where he looked good last year. You're asking for that to go right. You're asking for Michael Thomas to be healthy, for Chris Olave to hit the ground running right away. Not impossible. Love Chris Olave. The offensive line to gel when they've got this Trevor Penning guy who's injured, or when he's not injured, he's fighting in practice. You've got a new head coach. You got Dennis Allen. Obviously been there a while. As a DC, he's now got a head coach. The last time he was a head coach, it didn't really go very well. defense is good, but again, you've just traded Gardner Johnson, and the guys up front are getting a bit older. You can like Cam Jordan and the like. Demario Davis is definitely in the twilight of his career. It's just asking for a lot of stuff to go right for them to be the number one seed in the NFC. It's kind of not out of the realms of possibility. I agree with that because they've established that culture where they win. Like even last year, they were on the fringes of making the playoffs with Taysom Hill at quarterback, which is impressive. But you've also lost Sean Payton, who is probably half the reason why that happened in the first place. Right. So I just think it's a big jump to go from nearly making the playoffs to Taysom Hill to being the number one seed with a new head coach and a different quarterback.
I wouldn't be surprised if they won 9 games.
That feels about right. Like a
new head coach, Jameis Winston can be good, but he's not a great quarterback by any means. They're playing in the division with the Bucs. Like, nah.
They're just like the Steelers of the NFC for me this year, where it's just they have a high floor. I just don't know if they have the highest ceiling. It's hard for me to see it just falling apart over there. We're going to play a fun game. So before we get into our Screw the Lines week 1 NFL picks, where we have a special guest, Nick McGee, here to do these with us, I want to do this round robin. So game you are most excited about in week 1, Evan, is which game? Outside of your own, you can't say the 49ers.
Right, yeah. Well, I mean, I think the NFL did a fantastic job this year with the schedule because right away, Bills, Rams, former, the Super Bowl winners in the Rams, and what I think could be the best team in the NFL this year. I'm biased because the Rams beating the Niners to go to the Super Bowl hurts still, so I'm glad to see that Josh Allen is going to curb stomp the Rams this year. The Bills are going to destroy them.
I like it. Nick, what about you? What's your favorite week 1 matchup?
I'll go Sunday and go Cardinals and the Chiefs. Yeah. I think the Chiefs will win this game, but I think it'll be a fire show. But I just think of how badly it could go for the Cardinals on defense. This has the potential to be a disaster and set up already like a real week 1 crisis in Arizona already. If you get 40-50 on them by the Chiefs. I don't think this defense is going to be very good. And if it's going to be the Chiefs putting up the 40 or 50 burger, I think you could already set like Cliff Kingsbury's hot seat being on fire even after one game, even against one of the best teams in the AFC. Yes, I'm really intrigued to see how that plays out because it could be really fun, but I can see the Chiefs just going absolutely ham on them and putting up a ridiculous amount of points.
That's interesting. I mean, that's like one of those wild card games where I could see it going completely 2 different ways, where I don't think it'll be close. I don't think it's going to be like a back and forth. Either the Chiefs blow them out or the Cardinals come out of nowhere and have the opening. Because, remember, who is the week 1 through 7 king?
I was going to say, this is early season Cardinals. Mm-hmm. This is it. That's like their final form. That's when they're at their strongest, is when there's nothing on the line.
Yeah, that's why I that's a good pick. I'm excited to see how that one goes. For me, I would say the one that I am most curious about, and like Falcons Saints right away. It's kind of wild. I don't remember the last time the Falcons opened with the Saints. But I do really want to see Pat's Dolphins. Like Pat's Dolphins, to me, I have got to see what this Pat's offense looks like after everything we've heard in training camp and not having real coordinators coordinating this offense and who's calling plays. I want to see how this looks. Like that's the thing, is I really want to see how this looks. And I want to see how Tua looks with this group. I want to see how Tua looks with Tyreek Hill. That one I'll have my eye on for certain. So I'm excited to do some film study on that one.
The fantastic week 1 lineup.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Your Super Bowl pick, Nick, right now, putting it on the record. It is Monday, September 5th. Who are you putting in the Super Bowl right now?
The Buffalo Bills and the Green Bay Packers.
Okay. I like it.
Nick.
Evan's not going to
What the hell?
He can't stay in the Packers. He can't do this.
Okay, you know what? Me and Nick, for anyone that doesn't know, I have known Nick for a very 9 years now. He's worked with the 49ers hub. He's me and him have been in a group chat. I think that's as old as most people's children. I love Nick to death. I can't believe he just said he sees the Packers losing Devontae Adams and then going to the Super Bowl.
Better defense, must be much better defense this year. They can stay healthy. Jair Alexander, really good defensive front. I think the second level will be a lot better. They should be better against the run. And I just think, who better than Aaron Rodgers when he has? He has something to prove. we don't have Devontae Adams. I'm going to make these 2 rookies into superstars in my first year. Particularly Romeo Doubs looks fantastic. It's not a slight against our beloved team, but just they want to be the homer pick. And obviously, again, you're asking a lot for a rookie quarterback to make the Super Bowl when the first never happened. So I think could have an encouraging year for the Niners, but I wouldn't be surprised to see everybody's favorite anti-vaxxer in the biggest game of the year.
There you go. What about you, Evan? Who do you have in the Super Bowl? As of right now, you're putting it on the record here on the podcast, Blue Wire Pod Network. The tapes are forever. Who are you doing?
Yeah, I think this will be no surprise to anyone here, especially Chase. I will be taking the 49ers coming out of the NFC and the Chargers in the AFC.
I like that pick.
I think what we saw from Justin Herbert, I think he's only going to get better this year. They obviously added, the best corner in the free agency in J.C. Jackson, and then obviously Khalil Mack and trade. I think the Chargers are going to stand at the top of like a Royal Rumble of the AFC West, and they're going to come out. They're going to come out of it strong, and then they're going to lose to the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Interesting.
I hope yours is right.
I am going to go Baltimore Ravens. I think this is the ultimate FU year from Lamar Jackson and the pay stuff and missing the playoffs last year. The narrative surrounding Lamar has gotten crazy, and I love their talent. Healthy J.K. Dobbins. I think this defense is going to be one of the league's best. This strikes me as the Lamar MVP type year. I would not be surprised if he's in the final 1-2, and we'll get an MVP in a second. But I've got Ravens in the AFC, one in the AFC, and then Evan, plug your ears. I've got the Packers in the NFC. And we should also say who we think is going to win. So I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year, and I have the Ravens beating the Packers in the Super Bowl.
You guys will never learn your lesson. That's fine.
You just put the Los Angeles Chargers, who have made the playoffs one time in the last 9 years, in the Super Bowl.
But they are a completely different organization now. They're new coach, new players, new quarterback, everything. It's all fully remodeled, fully restored, brand new engine, ready to go. I'm telling you, Justin Herbert is him. He is.
There's more to just the Chargers issues than Justin Herbert. We can all acknowledge there is the Chargers curse. I don't know what it is. They make sense on paper every single year. They're the on-paper super team. They're the on-paper super team.
He is him Harbaugh. Himbo Fisher. All right? Hammer Fredette. He is him.
I cannot feel confident about them until I see some significantly improved game management after the end of last season.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
I will say this.
Yeah.
That is something that you either figure out and fix, or you never come back from that. We'll see.
I was still perplexed as why they didn't just tie that game, but
that one, you go to the playoffs, that whole situation, not
it
just
never makes sense to me.
I guess it's just the competitive nature of the court. It's just, there's something about it, integrity of the game. I don't know. That's one of those that will always just be one of the weirder scenarios. But who did you have, Nick, winning? Bills or Packers?
I'm going with the Bills over the Packers. Yeah, I think it's time for Josh Allen.
Okay, I like it. This is something that I'm very curious about. Evan, first coach fired for you. Someone's getting fired this NFL season, during the season. Who do you think is getting fired first?
I mean, so on one end, I want to say Mike McCarthy, because it should be
a good pick.
Mike McCarthy. But on the other, the Cowboys are notorious for taking way too long to fire their head coaches. I hope that they don't, or I hope that they do, because then they just stay bad. I think I'm going to say Mike McCarthy. I think the Cowboys, especially this season, are going to, they're coming out of the gate. They have to play the Bucs on Sunday Night Football, and I think they're going to lose that game. And I think that's, like Nick was talking about earlier about setting the tone for the season. I think them losing to the Bucs in maybe a very bad fashion could really get that ball moving quickly.
That's interesting. You look at that schedule, though. You mentioned that right out of the gate, like you get Tampa at home on Sunday Night Football, which would be a fun game. And I feel like they were on it 2 years ago, right? Wasn't that the opener on Sunday Night Football a couple years ago? But it was in Tampa, I think. It was Bucs, Cowboys, which I believe went down to the wire. I think that was a really good game that went down the wire, and Dak had a really good game. But I will say McCarthy is interesting. But you get Bengals at home in week 2. Then go to New York. So those first 3, we'll see. But they're scheduled the rest of the way. Like you look at that October slate, the November slate, you get the Lions, you get the Bears at home, you go to Minnesota, you get the Colts at home, you get the Texans at home, you get the AFC South. Like this is a very manageable schedule for the Cowboys and the NFC East as a whole. And that's why I think a lot of people are drinking the Eagles and Cowboys Kool-Aid a little bit. It's just that like the schedule is just not that bad. What about you, Nick? Who's your first coach fired?
I'm going to stay in the same division, but go with Ron Rivera. They have quite a Jaguars week 1, and they play the Lions week 2. But they.
Nick, I think your service just cut out right when you said that. Did you hear us?
Yeah, it's a little choppy as we're going.
Hey, look at that. Nothing like ending everything with some technical difficulties, right?
What happened? Nick froze.
You got to understand.
Stuck in Leeds.
Nick is 8 hours ahead in the future, right? Anything could happen. We don't know.
That is true.
He's out there. It's midnight. Can you hear
there
us?
He is.
Okay, Nick.
Yeah, I'm back.
All right. What were you saying about the Jags? Or Ron Rivera? Excuse me.
Ron Rivera, first coach fired. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, so looks to be a good schedule. Jaguars Lions.
Oh no.
So me.
You might want to just pull your video off, Nick, so the internet can maybe handle it if you need to. Because we gotta finish this up, right, Chase?
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. All right, Nick.
Try again.
Yes, there you are. You're back.
Last time we saw Carson Wentz in
it's a video thing.
Colts uniform was against the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he was a disaster. I know our good friend Jarrett Bailey is big on the Commanders, and I don't really understand why. Without Chase Young for the first 4.
I don't understand. Yeah. What were you saying?
Invest in a permanently flawed quarterback who at some point in the season is going to melt into a giant puddle, and I think that could happen a lot soon.
Yeah.
But Sam Howell looks good. It might be Sam Howell. Maybe that's the best thing for him. Sam Howell, cannon. He was a former, people just forget because college football just changes so quickly, like Spencer Rattler and guys like that being the number 1 mocked quarterback for the upcoming season. And then he has to go change schools and all that kind of stuff. And we'll see how he does. Not a great week 1, and that offensive line in Columbia is not great for Rattler. But Howell was a preseason number 1 pick at one point where he had that upside, and he had the really rough final year at UNC. But, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a pretty good player in Washington. My first coach fired, Matt Eberflus in Chicago. I think this is going to go so horribly, where I just get the Steve Wilkes vibe in Chicago, where defensive-minded coaches, they already scare me. You look at the wide receiver talent, you look at just what Chicago is working with going into this year. People are like, oh, it's year 1. Who's going to fire? Man, if you're bad enough offensively, it can happen very, very quickly. I mean, they have a tough schedule out of the gate. They get your 49ers, Evan, right out of the gate. They go to Lambeau. The Texans at home, you got to win that one. But at New York, at Minnesota, you're at New England, at Dallas. You get Miami in the fold. So you get the AFC East. You go to Atlanta. You go to New York. It's just, I don't know. I look at this and I think it's going to be rough. I would not be the least bit surprised if it's a disaster in Chicago and Matt Eberflus is just the fall guy for the lack of options. Justin Fields struggling again this year without the options and running for his life and everything else. I don't see it. I think the Bears are in for a really, really rough year where they finished last in the NFC North. I think the Lions passed them, and that might be enough for oh God, this was a 1-year blip, kind of like the David Culley thing in Houston last year.
Yeah, I do think that the Niners Bears game is going to be the biggest point differential in a loss of week 1. I'm serious.
And you're a big field guy. You're going to have mixed emotions as Bosa just destroys Justin Fields in that offense on Sunday.
I'm hoping they have to bench him by like third quarter because it's that bad.
There you go. Quickly, your AFC and NFC MVP, Evan.
AFC MVP is going to be Justin Herbert, and NFC MVP is going to be Nick Bosa.
Okay, I like it. Nick, what about you?
AFC MVP, Josh Allen. I think he'll win the whole thing. NFC MVP, you know what? I will go home on this one. I'll say that Trey Lance has a breakout year because everything everybody expects him to be in San Francisco doesn't quite get him.
Yeah, I could definitely see the Trey Lance pick. If Trey Lance goes, and then and the Niners, I mean, dude, if the deep ball works, it's over. He's winning those games.
Just to be clear, folks, Evan Sowards he could see a path to Trey Lance winning MVP in 2022. Who would have ever thought? Whomst among us could have foreseen Evan talking himself into MVP Trey Lance?
Hey, the last time I made a declaration like that, it said in 2019 that the 49ers would have the best defense in the NFL, and I was right.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I'm going to go Lamar Jackson in the AFC, and I am going to go this is going to be tough, but I'm going to go NFC was way more difficult for me. I'm going to say Tom Brady. And Nick disappeared. So I'm going to go Tom Brady in that regard. So last thing on this, and then we run through our 2-minute drill on our Screw the Lines Week 1 picks. Evan, who has the season from hell and misses the playoffs in the AFC? And who has the season from hell and misses the playoffs in the NFC?
Season from hell. I'm going to say the season from hell is going to be the Raiders.
Ooh, okay.
They have the toughest division, right? They have monster powerhouse teams. And I think a lot of people are very high on the Raiders, but someone is going to come out of that division a loser. And I just think it has to be the Raiders. Okay. Having to play those teams 6 games this year is tough. So I do think that'll be the issue. Season from hell in the NFC, there's a lot of picks. The NFC is not nearly as strong as it usually has been. But that said, it depends on the severity. I'll say Cowboys because I think that, every year their expectations as fans are so high. And I think they're not going to be a strong team this year. I think they'll be kind of middle of the pack. And for them, that's season from hell.
I like it. I'm going to say in the NFC, the Panthers, they implode and it all goes awry and they clean house this offseason and it goes the opposite way of where they are hoping it goes. In the AFC, I am going to go another one. The AFC was more difficult for me here. I'm going to say the Titans. I'm going to say the Titans have the season from hell. I think the Colts break through, finally win the division. Jags overachieve a little bit, and the Titans miss the playoffs. And you're like, oh, crap. This is where things start to shift. And Malik Willis needs to be our quarterback. Derrick Henry's mileage is starting to add up. I could see, because it's going to happen either this year or next year where the Titans have to reset a little bit and go with the young guy and do a slight little retooling here.
They'll be out. They'll be happy when Ryan Tannehill is gone.
I think that's a possibility. Nick, did your season from hell in the AFC and the NFC? Who do you got?
I'm going to agree with you on the first one in the NFC. AFC Panthers, everything blows up. Baker Mayfield, famously not the easiest guy to get in the locker room by all accounts. Matt Rule is out of a job, which is what probably at the end of everybody in Carolina wants anyway, and they end up in the hunt for a top pick, which make everybody happy. I think it'd be a season from hell that would be accepted in Carolina just to get to somewhere much better than where they are. And sticking on the Baker Mayfield theme in the AFC, the Browns, they'll be made to regret not trading for Jimmy Garoppolo and sticking with Jacoby Brissett, who is nowhere near as good and can't keep him afloat for 11 games. And then Deshaun is left to deal with that a lot when he eventually is allowed to play.
Couldn't happen to a better organization. So no tears shed there. The room switch, I think, worked, Nick. I think we found the right room for the pod going forward for your next appearance. Now, Evan, it's our favorite time. The clock, it's back. Nick, we do a 2-minute drill on our picks of the week. Just lightning round on this podcast. Evan, Where are we starting? Do you have the 2 seconds or 2 minutes rather on the clock ready to go?
I do indeed.
Okay.
And I will get that started and go. Okay, so Rams and Bills. I'm taking the Bills.
Nick, what about you? We'll go Evan, Nick, and then me.
Rams, Bills, taking the Bills as well. Sick of Super Bowl champions winning the home opener all the time.
Go. Chase.
I'm going Rams. I think the Bills still have a lot of weird stuff hanging over them right now, and the vibe there is not great. And Stafford has something to prove with the elbow inflammation. Like, I'm okay. Like, my elbow's fine actually, and we're gonna have a good time. I'm gonna go Rams. Start off hot here and win.
All right, Lions and Eagles. Eagles are gonna win this one pretty handedly. Although I do love Dan Campbell.
There you go.
Eagles in a squeaker. Lions make it competitive.
Interesting. See, this is where I'm glad Hard Knocks is over, because the Lions and the love there, it's like, all right, let's see when the wins come in. Like, let's see what actually happens when I'm going to say the Eagles blow them out. I think this is a blowout, and we're like, oh, right, the Eagles are dominant. And AJ Brown has a big first game for Philly. I think he's going to be a really good player. He was targeted a crap ton this preseason by Jaelen Hurts and company, and I think he's going to make life significantly easier for the folks in Philly. And Trey Sermon, see if he makes an impact right away for Philly. Give me the Eagles big.
All right. And then Bears versus Niners. We will all be taking the Niners. Moving on. Bengals versus Steelers. I think we'll all be taking the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chase has always got some. Go ahead, bro.
I'm going to go Bengals, but I will not be the least bit surprised if the Steelers squeak out a victory here.
You can't tell me that you're a Joe Burrow over Justin Herbert believer if you're worried about
I'm
the
just
Steelers.
Terrified of the post Super Bowl hangover. I am always going to be a little concerned about that. But I also think the Steelers are going to be good this year.
All right.
So give me it. Yeah. Bengals.
Pats and Dolphins. The era of Mike McDaniel starts with a loss, or with the Pats losing. Dolphins are going to win this one.
Yeah, give me the Dolphins. Not convinced by anything to do with New England on both sides of the ball. Mike Daniel gets off with a W.
Interesting. And this is in Miami, right?
I think so. Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
New England and Miami is just never a great thing. We go back to the Tom Brady years. He never had a good time in Miami. Give me Miami in the opener too. I like Miami here.
All right, old Chad Henne vibes.
Yes.
Panthers Browns. I'm taking the Browns. These teams are both suck.
Slam both these teams, so tough one. But yeah, Browns, close one. Bissett gets over midfield.
Give me the Panthers. I think the Baker pissed off game. Like, I don't think this is going to work long term, but I do think he actually starts off hot, and that he gets some revenge against his former team. Give me the Panthers here.
That would be a great thing. I would enjoy that a lot. Texans versus Colts. The Matt Ryan era in Indianapolis is going to be a blowout.
This is going to be the biggest blowout, and I just booked this one into this is blowout city. 38-7.
I think the Texans have a better. I'm biased. They smashed the Niners in preseason, but I think the Texans will have a better season than we expected. That running back is cold, and their defense looks decent.
Okay.
All right. What about you guys?
Oh, I got Colts by a landslide.
Yeah, Colts. I think the Texans have the vibes of that team that wins every preseason game and then wins like 2 games the entire season. So,
yes.
Yeah.
I for the Falcons and Saints, I hope the Falcons win for Marcus Mariota and Chase's sake, but I think the Saints win this one.
Give me Falcons. Week 1 upset. Week 1's weird.
Wow.
Would love that.
Falcons on the road, week 1. I'm going Falcons. My mind says Saints, but I'm just not doing that. No matter what pick I'm never picking the Saints over the Falcons.
Egg on Peter King's face.
There you go.
All right. And then up next, we're going to do Ravens and Jets. I think we're all going to be taking the Ravens here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blowout.
All right. And then Jags versus Commanders is.
This is going to be the lowest rated game of week 1, I think. This is just slop city. There's no way. A lot of folks are tuning in this one. Give me the Jags here, though.
Yeah, I'm taking the Jags because Trevor's gotta eventually become this quarterback that everyone's expecting him to be. I think it's a good way to start out by playing the Commanders.
Yeah, 3 out of 3. All the reports from Jack Campbell and Trevor Lawrence have been outstanding. I think they win this one, and he has a very, very, very good second season.
There you go. Where are we going next?
Packers and Vikings. I'm taking the Vikings. It's my week 1 upset.
Vikings week 1. Okay. What about you, Nick?
Packers for me. I think this is in Minnesota, so it might be a little bit tougher, but I don't think it'll make a difference this time.
All right.
Yeah, give me Packers too.
Giants and Titans. I'm going Titans.
Yeah. Titans. Yeah.
Yeah, Titans. Clean sweep.
Raiders and Chargers. I'm taking Chargers.
Where is this one?
LA.
Yeah, it's in LA. Yeah. Chargers in overtime.
Ooh, give me the Raiders here. A lot to prove. Give me the Raiders right out of the gate over LA. I think they're going to be. This is a home game for LA or for the Vegas Raiders. Back in LA. I think this is going to be a home game for the Raiders. Give me the Raiders.
Cards and Chiefs. I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, Chiefs. So I already spoke about it. Blowout. Cards might score points. Defense can't keep Patrick Mahomes out of the end zone.
Give me the Cardinals here. I believe in the early season. The early season Arizona Cardinals. I think they win this.
Wow. Okay. Cowboys and Bucs. I'm taking the Bucs.
Yeah, Buccaneers. Similar to last year, I think it's close. This one's in Dallas. It could be even closer than last year. It was a 1 possession game, so it could be another last second field goal type thing. But yeah, I think Brady gets it done.
Give me the Cowboys at home.
All right. And then by the way, I think I was wrong about the biggest point disparity. Broncos Seahawks might be that. Russell Wilson is going to absolutely murder his whole team.
Yeah, I agree with that one. As my cat is scratching at the door because it's shelling it down with rain here in the north of England. No surprise, but yeah, there'll be shelling points in Seattle with Russ going back up there. We're going to Broncos by a lot.
There you go. I like it. Broncos by a landslide. We did it. We're back. Week 1 in the books. We're ready to go. I'm excited to watch a bunch of football. Nick, thank you for making the time here on this Monday edition of the program. We greatly appreciate you making the time. All that good stuff. Evan Sowards, thank you as always, my friend, for coming on the pod as you do at this time every week. I've got to run, but guys, thank you as always. And I will talk to you next week, Evan. And Nick, we'll talk again very soon.
Pleasure, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, everyone.